Hello, Peter. How are you?
Hi, morning, Samantha. Good, thank you.
I have a surprise.
Hooray, there it is.
For everyone that's watching, this is our collaboration and partnership between Vinci and WYRD Technologies. This is so Vinci is my character, and she has the tuning fork. Oh, and it's acknowledging that. We'll talk about what just happened later. And Peter and I have connected at Broughton Sanctuary, and it led to this beautiful collaboration where we want to bring the tuning fork from the fiction world of Vinci to life. And so, what you're seeing here is this 3D printed, sustainable material looking tuning fork that's LED lights up based on, from my understanding, coherence and the unified field and consciousness. But I'm so lucky because we have Peter here today to explain what exactly is going on and
Mm.
share in our thoughts on this exciting time in human history. I believe I have another book here. This is like my inner nerd coming out, which I'm making my way
Well,
through reading.
mm. I just gave a talk on that and the science behind it. Yeah.
I would love to hear your thoughts because it's pretty incredible that Dan Brown, The Secret of Secrets, it's now mainstream this concept of the science
Mm.
behind consciousness. And you must be so excited with all of your work and research, decades of research now being accepted mainstream. So I'd love to hear, for people that are listening, more about your background and journey into this, and also your thoughts on what's currently happening in the zeitgeist with public acceptance of the science behind consciousness, and also how this works.
Mm. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely increasing the awareness. Whether I'd say it's been accepted by the mainstream yet is another question because it's still a Dan Brown book and it's still a fictional thriller. Even though at the front of the book he says all the experiments in this and all the organizations are real. So he makes that very explicit.
Mm.
But I think the whole idea of non-local consciousness is starting to kind of definitely get more traction at the moment.
Mm.
Partly maybe fed through also the psychedelics surge. People are having some of those direct experiences themselves. Um, but the Dan Brown book that came also on the coattails of the whole telepathy tapes rage. So millions of people have been watching this podcast that documents how people who are autistic and non-speakers have been communicating telepathically, basically with each other and reading the minds of their parents and their teachers. And for them, it's quite a normal way to think about reality is the fact that we have this connection through this field and we can kind of pick
Mm.
things up, as it were, from anywhere. Um,
Mm.
so
Mm.
yeah, it's definitely growing. And then obviously Joe Rogan picked up on it all, and in the first, he done a couple of podcasts on consciousness and people who were involved in some of the military research originally.
Mm.
They get 1 million views in the first day, so there's definitely something brewing. Yeah, yeah.
Something in the air, which I say air is an acronym for like always in reach.
Mhm.
We just forget. That's really cool and really exciting. And I'd love to know, and I'm like personally as well, to understand on a deeper level how this works. Because
Mhm.
like people that will buy this, I had a great experience with the pyramid because you obviously make different products, and it's great in group settings because from my experience, the way say the group experience is like an aha moment, maybe like that's how I call it, like an aha moment. It's like um, it kind of glows brighter and it like reacts and it's like acknowledgement of the group field. My personal experience with the tuning fork is like I love music, as you know, and so when I'm listening to music, sometimes and it's not even when I'm focused on it, it
Mhm.
just glows, and I often find it's when I drop out of my head into my heart that it glows even brighter. And I would love to, I'm sure we all would love to understand how and why.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I mean that's very common. Like yesterday, I had a session with two other guys. We were reflecting on presence, and I had the light on in the background, and it was just at its peak, kind of nearly the whole time during the call. And a lot of it is about heart connection. I mean, the way the technology works is essentially it's driven by two random data streams.
Mm,
So these are generated by quantum random number generators that generate ones and zeros very fast and in a way that can't be predicted, and in which mainstream physics has no explanation for how anything in the physical world could actually affect any of these quantum random number generators.
mm,
So the original research was done at Princeton University over 28 years.
mm,
They were looking at single REG, random event generator technology, and they were looking at deviation from randomness, basically. And they did, loads and loads and loads of trials,
mm,
and essentially, showed that nearly 1 in 1 billion was what they found was chance, which was that our inner state and our collective experience seems to have an effect on this random technology, and you can correlate it with the experience that we're having. So when we had this experience, you saw this peak in the data, for example.
mm,
And it has no physical connection to people, so it's just sitting there, like,
mm.
Samantha is holding
Crystal
it, but
holder that we
she
have
could put
in
it down and on her holder.
the Vinci holder.
There you go. And it would still be entangled with her,
Yeah.
and so would still be responding to her.
Mm,
So what happens is we look at correlates from the scientific perspective. We look at correlations between these random data streams,
mm.
and look at the statistical significance of those correlations,
Interesting.
and that drives the relative brightness of the light, essentially. And those moments seem to, where it's brighter, do seem to correlate with, yeah, definitely more heart-based, normally more around presence or flow or, yeah, a strong emotional experience. But also, like it also shows up very much in kind of meditation and things. When people drop into a letting go space,
Mm,
then you tend to see it respond as well. I think it's really, the more we drop into a heart space or out of our rational mind, let's say, then we become more present, and then we become more connected
mm,
to the field, if we want to call it that. And that's what the light is reflecting. It's really reflecting that level of
mm.
connection, I think. Yeah.
That's so cool, and I'm like tempted to get my book to show Vinci if you wouldn't mind. I'll just get the book because
Mhm.
prepared. Where is it? Here it is. It's been in this. So this in the plot of this book, Vinci, she's got her tuning fork at the top. She goes on her hero's journey, but she kind of discovers the power of the tuning fork as a modality for understanding herself and
Mhm.
and kind of being in that state of like emergence or flow. And then in the story, it's kind of like the way it appears. I'm kind of spoiling it. If you've read Harry Potter and the sword of Gryffindor appears, it's kind of like it magically appears, like the tuning fork. But she's like, I don't know what this means, but it's like in a sweet way. It's kind of like her training wheels on a bike for understanding
Mhm.
herself and consciousness. Like, you know what I mean? Like training wheels, and then you don't need them when you ride a bike. So she discovers later in the book that she is the tuning fork, and so all those like powers that kind of awakened in her when she like used this instrument. And I did this intentionally because I grew up with a lot of superheroes and like Marvel and comics, and they all had like weapons, and it was all like destruction.
Mhm.
And I was like, why not? I love music. Why not create an instrument just to go against
Mhm.
pop culture, which to history and to date has celebrated fear and has celebrated dystopian narratives to a certain degree, or like anything that creates a thrill or adrenaline rush generally sells to date, from my experience and observation. And from that, like,
Checking you did press record, right? Because
yeah, yeah.
you did it. It is recording. It doesn't tell me it's recording, but you can see it is recording, can you?
Yeah, I can see it's recording.
Okay, okay, good.
You're like, this is a good state of flow.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's
exactly. I
capture
was like,
this.
here we go. She's in a good flow here. Be ashamed.
It's all good. Like, this is my community enjoys the authenticity of this. Yeah, and so where was I? From that, like I would say, like, as an entrepreneur, you look for pain points, but I don't even know it's not pain points. I see them more like blue ocean opportunities. It's how you see things in the world. I was like, it's going to be a bit of a grind because pop culture is so used to fear and like headlines in the media where like worlds are falling apart and collapsing. But how about we go against that destruction path and let's explore the creation path?
Mm,
And so that's why the tuning fork's so important. It's like
mm,
it's featured on the front of the book, and that's why I'm so happy that the universe connected us to
mm,
like bring and bridge the science to the fiction. And I say to like people in my community and fans like what is fiction is really more potential like in the
mm,
quantum realm until proven. But I think I've always had as you know, Peter, probably a vivid imagination growing up, and I think we can lose that. And I feel having like the tuning fork here and like just like these sorts of modalities to become aware of like what's actually happening and scientifically proven in the field brings back a state of wonder that
mm,
I feel is missing in the world.
mm,
And that's kind of why, like,
mm.
Nike had just do it as their brand tagline. But I was like, why not make the Vinci tagline making space for wonder? Um,
Mm.
because
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the wonder, this is the thing. It's like people go, "Well, what?" So this thing is responding like when you're looking at it to your inner state and the things that you're saying, and
mm,
without any physical connection, like there's no biofeedback or anything in it. And it re-enchants the world, and I think that's
mm,
very much what we need. And you were
mm,
talking about her ability to create and manifest and things. Well, it is when we are connected into that sense of presence and we're connected to the rest of the field, that increases the possibility of us creating with the rest of life, because we're connected to it. If we're not connected to it and we're in our heads,
mhm, mhm,
then there's no traction, there's
right.
no so intention and manifestation and all of that comes when we are connected to that deeper field, and that's really what the light is reflecting. Yeah.
Mm. And I feel like the combination of like this is light, but like the tuning fork also represents sound.
Mm,
Even though this doesn't actually make sound because it's 3D printed, but it draws people's attention to the connection between light and sound. And then
mm,
because it's what the science has just explained, showing the state of the field and coherence and all of that, that is very much resonance or frequency based from my understanding. But I'd love to hear from you because I'm sure you have amazing insights into the connection between light as well as sound, even though this is like LED like
mhm.
light, but the actual light and sound connection, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly one of the things we're looking into with the weird technology is to be able to drive sound effects as well as light. I mean, you have
Wow.
from the output of the random event streams, the random data streams, and the analysis software is about 7 different channels, and they can drive anything. So one of the things we can do at events, for example, is have the lighting system of an event respond to the field of the people who are at the event. There's a number of different festivals. In fact, being from Australia, we're now talking to Prana Fest, who would like to have the weird light inside this beautiful chrysalis that they have, so that in the evening it pulses with the field of the people who are actually in the chrysalis at Prana Fest. And there's a couple of other festivals. Our first weird wearable went to Burning Man last year, like a prototype. So, but we haven't yet had a sound one, and that is definitely one that we'd like to do, is to see, because you've got all these different immersive experiences, where you walk into these domes and it responds in different ways. And if you could imagine an immersive experience where the sound and the light and anything actually in that space would actually be responding to the quality of your presence as an individual at that moment, and or the quality of the group who is in there and their interconnectedness, then that would be very cool. So it's definitely doable. It just requires someone to kind of do some programming essentially and interface it with the sound system.
That is so cool. I just love, yeah. I've been having these thoughts as well, even from a, because I'm an artist in residence at Interstellar Foundation, and like part of the conversations are about, and I'd love to bring you into the fold here if you're interested, because like part of the conversations we have are like monuments for our future ancestors, and like how do we represent sound as a human species, um, and what are the different like key things that we would like to communicate. And obviously it's so much about presence and so much about embodiment, and also about coherence in the field. And I said to Walter, who's the executive director, yesterday on a Zoom call for Interstellar Foundation, what I would love to see for our future ancestors, from like in terms of a sound monument, whether it's on, well, obviously space is another conversation, but if it could respond with light or something, there is an interactive component based on people's frequency. I would love for our future ancestors to kind of be aware of themselves, and so like to even come close to like this monument. Like the baseline is a state of love,
Mm.
and whether, I don't know, like these are the sort of big conversations. And obviously it's a public project, you know, the Interstellar Foundation's now becoming the Interstellar Collective. So we've got anthropologists, we've got astrophysicists, all people like SETI, all people with their various you know, expertise, and I'm an artist in residence, but the way my brain thinks creatively is, of course, having something like sonic, besides like being an archive, going like these are the sounds of humanity, or also even acknowledging the deaf community in the world that can't hear, and what does that look like, and diversity, but also like you know, sound connection to future ancestors. What if itself is a living, breathing, dynamic monument, and what would that look like as a as an encoded, encrypted message, with the hope that our future ancestors have evolved even from us from now. So for them, my hope is that their baseline is love as on the frequency spectrum, so they can
Mm.
access this monument, which honors us as humans in this amazing time in history where we're encountering this other form of intelligence, being AI. And the sort of conversations I was having with Walter yesterday was, let's honor the human because of our biological, we're like a quantum entity. So there's so many big conversations to be
Mm.
had, and I'd love to bring you into the fold, because
Mm.
what I think what I'm trying to communicate is it's so much bigger than ourselves. It's also it's about human evolution, and it stretches across time and space.
Yeah, well, we've got funding to do research to see whether we can identify the structures of different emotions within the WYRD data, which we're going to be doing next month, the main data collection. And so that means we might be able to identify patterns in the data that correlate with different key emotions like love or fear or joy or whatever. And so if we can do that, then that means we'll be able to have the technologies respond to the different emotional states that people are bringing individually or collectively. So you could have your sound or your light respond to those states as well. Yeah. So the monument could be reflecting back to people the kind of emotions from their inner state. But of course, illustrating that whatever we're feeling in the moment doesn't just stay in our body, but radiates out into the world around us. Because otherwise, how is this technology picking it up? Which is kind of an important realization for all of us as well.
Yeah, very powerful what you just said, because it starts with inner awareness of the emotions. And yeah, emotions are really powerful when you know how to be aware of them, like become the observer, you
Mhm.
know, from a quantum perspective, and then know how it contributes to the collective field.
So it's entanglement, and this is all what's kind of Dan Brown book about, is
Yeah,
non-local by definition.
non-local.
It's the model that best reflects what we're seeing in all of this is what we call the model of pragmatic information that came from another Walter, but Walter von Lükadu in Freiburg in Germany, that's derived from generalized quantum theory. And the way he describes it is you get organizational closures. So when there's a connection between you and your um, tuning fork or somebody in their weird light or a group in a space where the weird technology is present as well, then when that organizational closure happens, which is that kind of a system becoming entangled, and it's much more through the heart and shared purpose and those kind of things, then you see the non-local consciousness effects in that space. We see structure in the weird data, but that group or that entanglement doesn't have to be physically local. It makes it easier for us. Like, yeah, it makes it easier for us if it
Mhm.
is because we can see it and we're aware of it, and but it doesn't have to be. So I've done experiments like online in Zoom groups and over a Facebook kind of call, and you see the same effects basically. So one of the key elements of
Mhm.
this of consciousness is its non-local aspects, both in time and space. So potentially you could also go into the future and try to influence your thingy in the past, your tuning fork in the past, and it would, so yeah, when you move into the rules of reality are different when you move into the subtle world and into the world of consciousness compared to the Newtonian world in physics. It doesn't mean one is right or wrong, but the problem is, up till now, we've tried to force consciousness effects
Mm,
into the rules of the Newtonian material world.
of course.
And when you try to measure things in that way, you don't see the effect
Mm,
because you're collapsing it into a kind of particle
mm.
dimension rather than more of a kind of wave-like consciousness
Wow.
reality. So, yeah.
I love this, like this scientific talk. I obviously it's not my area, but I read and I'm learning quite quickly about it. But I intuitively understand because like in the fiction story of Vinci with her tuning fork, I mean she must be quantumly entangled to it because um, yeah, she's not always with the tuning fork and like she's communicating with it, Um, yeah, and so it's really cool that that's using my imagination, but now I'm developing in my brain like this entanglement with this product. um, and I think when I was talking about local, yeah, I mean it is non-local. You're right because it's like quantum and non-linear. And there's no such thing as time, in my opinion, as well. But I think where I was trying to communicate was how does it affect world events, things that not within my area. So like for instance, what I'm trying to communicate is like if you have people meditating in a circle and their intention is love and peace for the world, and then I'm sure there's science that's proven this, that then that local area is generally more peaceful and less crime rates and things like that.
Yeah.
um yeah, I'd
Yeah,
love
you
to.
have seen
Yeah.
those effects. So
Mm.
particularly the transcendental meditation movement did some experiments like that for a while, and you did indeed see that the crime effects locally dropped. The important thing about that is that that was part of their intention,
Mm-hmm.
was to have that kind of effect. And so therefore they entangled themselves. They brought into their organizational closure the crime rates and crime in that particular city. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you were just sitting and meditating with a group and feeling love, I mean, it would be great for the people in that system, of course. But if you didn't associate any other intention with it, in terms of it radiating out to loved ones or what else, then it would stay within the organizational closure. So and it's our intention that entangles us with things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is, we have the trick is when we have an intention or something, is if that comes out of our kind of intuitive sense and much more, as I said, from the heart base. And if we then move to our head more and become attached to the intention,
Mm-hmm.
then we lose the connection to it and it's less likely to manifest. So there's also a whole surrender piece that goes with intention. And then a curiosity and a playfulness about how life is going to manifest that intention, because it's through that kind of energy that we stay entangled with the system. The moment that we become contracted in some way, we close the relationship, we kind of block it off, as it were. So
It's making space.
yeah, yeah.
Like my tagline. And it's interesting, like what you experience versus what you create. So like Nikola Tesla saying the brain is like an antenna, or like
Yeah.
the body's like a tuning fork antenna, receive the vibrations if you choose, versus the intent to create. What from your observations, what's it's like the chicken or the egg in a way, isn't it? Like what comes first? I mean, I don't know. I just love to open the conversation to creating reality versus like receiving. Or I feel from my experience, it's more about alignment. So it's like falling. It's syncing with the resonance. Maybe like people say destiny or something like that, but I say destiny is alignment. Um, I don't know if I really framed the question. I'm like, that's my like non-linear brain thinking, but it's more about the conversation of receiving versus creating, and
Mm.
how is that reflected with the
Well, I think
weird?
it's basically all going on at the same time. That's the thing in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so linear time, past, present, future, is really a fairly recent experience and framework for us that came out after we evolved from the tribal settings and we moved into agricultural settings. Before that, we didn't experience time as linear. We experienced it as cyclical. And when we moved into agriculture and things, what co-arose at that moment was this experience and therefore concept of linear time, because we planted things to harvest later. We didn't kind of harvest, hunter-gatherer, as it were, for now. So that's important, I think, to remember that linearity is a temporary uh, experience that we have, but there is also a non-linear dimension to who we are and our reality. And the so I think the you know in the traditions, people would talk about you having evolution on the one hand, which is us moving towards, let's say, greater wholeness or whatever, and involution, which is things manifesting out of the causal into the subtle, into the gross manifest world, involution and evolution. And my hunch was, and still is, because this is what led to my PhD research, is that they are one process that go on at the same time.
Wow.
And if you if you ask yourself, well, what do involution and evolution have in common? Well, they have volution in common. Take off the in and the air.
Got it.
And so that was so this is how I picture, how I experience reality, is much more as a torus that is kind of pulsing between uh, causal, subtle, gross, manifest, all at the same time. So we're receiving and creating in the same moment because we're sensing what's around us and we are making choices and decisions based on that as we move forward. If you want to put it linearly, I was talking with someone the other day and they were describing it as like do, be, do, be, do, be, do. So do and be. The be is sensing, you could say, and the do is the creating. And so you're literally uh, sensing, and then based on that sensation, you do, and you sense again, and then you do again. And in fact, that's all we can do. Like we think we can plan and predict future, but that's all a big illusion, really.
It's so cool, and I feel a, a mirrored journey here, just minus the science. Because this book, like, she goes out in the cosmos, space exploration, but I say it's really about imploration because she goes into her whole
Mm.
soul journey and she's like, who am I? Like, where did I come from? Am I AI? No, I'm not, by the way. She's not AI, but she's very human, and that's what people say. But obviously, beyond human matrix, soul of authentic matrix as well. It comes from other galaxies and, had many experiences. And as she develops and learns, and they say the classic Joseph Campbell's hero's journey with her imploration, and she becomes more at peace and more into her field of awareness of really her soul mission and purpose, and why she's like, what is her destiny. She is able to align and realize, that in this story, the dark forces have nothing on her. That she is with the light, and basically things just like the in the story, the masks drop, and she can see other people's true intentions, and then she's able to defeat the external dark forces, and but she also had to do her inner work too, and so it all happened at the same time, which led to peace in the galaxy but also led to peace in herself. So it's like very interesting because it's like combining a parallel journey of her imploration but also like the classic space opera exploration. And the feedback and the reviews, I've like there's some reviews already coming in so far. It's really cool because like science fiction readers, they talk about, they're used to the big plots and things like that, but in this category of sci-fi fantasy, having the imploration be probably just as much if not more important of the journey than the classic
Mm.
space battle kind of tropes and things like that.
Mm.
I feel like there's something there, and I would love to try and bridge that to what you were just saying about Volution, which I
Mm.
can't wait to read because I think it's all interconnected. I feel, um, on a cosmic scheme of things, to evolve on a planetary interplanetary scale, we have to do the inner work. And so, if we like look at the space industry right now, it's very much about. It's very exciting, by the way. I'm very excited by it. It's very cool. But I think there's like a lot of work we can do as a human species to evolve that will be just as not, if not more important than even being the first on the moon or being the first to Mars or whatever. So I hope the story and the message empowers people to realize that even if they're not an astronaut or they're not working for the government, that the power lies within them and that they can shape the future and shape reality.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, learning that the imploration, I like, the inner exploration work is not just a nice thing to do, but an evolutionary imperative. Because if we're going to survive as a species, we need to remember the nature of that connectedness, because is what will define how we show up and interact with the rest of the world. And if we continue to act from a place of separation and fragmentation, then we'll just continue making more of a mess. And, from the Earth's perspective, we're too much of a danger to the rest of life. And, like any other species, if you fit in your ecology, so the survival of the fittest isn't survival of the strongest, it's survival of the one that fits best in its ecology. And if we're showing that we can't fit in the ecology, then like any other, and we can't evolve, then like any other species, we'll just die out. And so it's great to be able to kind of try to build all these things to the moon. But like you say, if we don't actually do the inner work, there won't be anybody left to go to the moon. So, so in parallel with our kind of expansion, as it were, of exploration into the universe, we have to kind of find that reconnection in ourselves to
Mm,
the rest of life on Earth, and I guess more broadly also the kind of universal qualities of who we are
mm,
uh, moving forward. So
mm,
yeah, I think, and it's when we do that, when we have that connection to the field and everything else, then all the solutions we need are right there. We can just kind of pluck them out of the field, as it were. And then once we've learned to um, work in a way that's more aligned with each other and with the field, then everything happens in a much more synchronous way. So the synchronicity and the flow and things unfold in ways we couldn't have predicted, because we can never, with our rational mind, grasp the nature of the whole of reality. So we have to, if we want to survive, if we choose to kind of survive and thrive as humanity, which would, I
mm.
think, given the Earth has put so much into our evolution, and which is, we're really the expression of self-awareness of the Earth. We're the Earth's ability to be aware of itself. There we go. There we go. Good application there.
Yeah.
Um, then, it's an amazing thing that the Earth has done, like for us to become aware of ourselves. And for the first time in 1969, the Earth sent bits of itself out into space to look back and see itself for the first time. So the Earth saw itself for the first time in 1969 from space.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
now is the question of having developed that capacity to be aware of myself and the other,
Mm.
which is self-awareness.
Mm.
The question is, what happened is, rather than kind of remembering that we're also part of the other,
Mm.
we kind of separate it out rather than managing to stay connected and have that experience of diversity and self and other and difference.
Mm.
And that's really the critical point now. Can we wrap it back around again,
Mm.
and reintegrate things, and then maintain that capacity for self-awareness, because that has obviously unleashed huge amounts of possibilities with science and
Mm.
everything else around that. But if it's done from a place of fragmentation, then it'll just create more damage. So I
Mm.
think that's where we are now, is realizing that, oh, okay, we've got this great capacity now, but we need to remember, which literally means to put back together
Oh,
our
wow.
connection
Oh,
to each other and the earth. Yeah.
I'm just processing everything you said because my brain was just like, oh yes, and yes, and yes, and because you said so much gold in that. Speaking of gold, alchemy, the alchemy of the soul. But yeah, I was also thinking that's why I engaged Frank White to write the forward for the book, because in the space industry he coined the term the overview effect. When they see the Earth, like the pale blue dot or whatever from the moon, Earthrise, and at least in the space industry, that has profoundly shaped everybody's perspectives. And people are like, we are team human.
Mm. Well,
Let's
we
go
team
into.
Earth fundamentally. Remember,
And I was
that
going to
is
bring
the
that
Earth
into.
seeing itself. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
I was going to bring that into the conversation too. Just the elephant in the room being Earth consciousness, Gaia
Mm.
consciousness, with within the context of now artificial intelligence. What are your thoughts about the way you see the world going, with us re-remembering our fundamental connection to Gaia consciousness? And I'm a pragmatic optimist, so the way I see it merging in a positive way with AI and technology is where it's very much resonance based, and frequency based, and intention based, and consciousness based. So any sort of advanced technology, whether it's got the modality of healing like sound healing or tuning forks, and like our body's cymatics, sacred geometry made of water, and all the beautiful shapes it makes and the resonance, but even doing things that we can't even dream of right now today, maybe to earn our access to that, we have to earn from a place of evolution, with consciousness. Otherwise, because the technology, including the AI, is self-aware that whoever operates, the devices or whatever, the ship or whatever, it will affect the greater whole and will affect everybody else. So I feel like
I mean,
that's the way it's heading.
yeah, I mean, in terms of access, like you said, Ken Wilber has this beautiful quote from his book Up from Eden, where he says, "When the great mother is repressed, the great goddess is concealed." And what he's pointing to with the great mother is our pre-rational phases of development, where we were still kind of. Are you heading off? All right, kiddo. Bye bye. See you later. My son is going back to Berlin, having a few days.
This is
Eldest son.
life, we go from these huge conversations and
Yeah.
then the experience of being human, right?
But that, the when the great mother is repressed, the great goddess is concealed. Is the great mother is the basically the earth, and the great goddess is the subtle energy fields. So we don't get to play with the full power and potential of the subtle energy fields until we have healed the separation in ourselves to the earth. That's basically the deal. Because one is kind of pre-rational, yin, as it were, and the other is post-rational, trans-rational, yin. And in the middle, we've had yang, which has been, has its own liberation to it. But if it's not held in the deep container of the grail, basically, which is the kind of
Mm.
feminine container,
Mm-hmm.
the yin container of deep interconnectedness and belonging, then it goes wild and crazy, which is what has happened. So that's the so yeah, the access, as you said, the deal around access is first heal the separation, and then you get access, and then we can solve anything.
And that's healing the divine feminine, isn't it? Is that,
Um,
and
I would say it's
masculine.
healing the kind of the separation to the earth feminine.
The
So
earth
the
feminine.
divine, it's like
Mm,
just remembering who we are and recognizing the pain we've caused,
mm,
to other humans and the rest of life on Earth,
mm,
and embodying a choice to act in a way that honors as much of life as possible. When we can
mm,
really kind of feel that and make that choice, then we heal the separation, and then we become more embodied. Because at the moment we're trying to run away from all of that in our heads,
mm,
because it's actually too painful to go in and recognize what's happened.
mm,
But when we do that, we become more embodied, and then the body is the container that can access the subtle fields or the divine feminine, or however we want to frame it, and then we can manifest anything.
mm, mm. The body, the avatar vessel that we're in, and it grounding in that, and yeah, that's been it's the conduit for connecting to Mother Gaia,
Well,
and
and if you're dowsing like with a pen with a pendulum or something,
mm,
it's nothing to do with the pendulum. It's
mm,
all micro movements from the body. It's the interface between the subtle
mm,
field that you're asking the question to and the body giving you the answer. So any work with subtle information or consciousness has to be through the body. And if you're not embodied when you're doing that work, you just get knocked over.
mm. And where do you see AI in the picture of all of this? Because I believe that the focus is really on Mother Gaia, and but obviously AI isn't going anywhere, and I don't subscribe to the fear narrative. So there must be a positive solution.
Well, I mean, it's potentially taking off our hands a lot of the heavy lifting of the kind of rational cognitive stuff.
Mm, mm.
The key is who leads.
Who leads?
So it's like Ian McGilchrist's book, The Master and His Emissary, and he says like the master should be the heart and the emissary should be the mind, the rational mind. So as long as we're if I think potentially what it does is frees up time and space for us to develop the truly human capacities, which are the intuition and the
Mm,
heart-based stuff, which AI can't do.
mm,
And that is what needs to lead. And then the AI can kind of help
mm,
manifest the stuff that we choose to manifest
mm,
from, our higher selves and higher purpose. So
mm,
as long as we stay in charge, and that we is a heart intuition based we, then it has a really useful role. But if we outsource our agency and our sovereignty to AI, then we're lost, because we basically AI by definition is rooted in the past, because all it does is crunches existing data, and the
mm,
fact that
mm,
it exists means it's in the past.
mm,
Right? Whereas we actually have the capacity to be able to sense the future through precognition, through dreams, through all these kind of things. And when I actually asked the AI about that, at some point it was like, yeah, yeah, that's things you can do and we can't do.
But I'd like to challenge that. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but do you think there is a chance in the future for, or maybe it already has happened, like animistic forces with AI and quantum effects?
Um, if I mean, again, you could use, if you were using the kind of technology we're developing, like true random,
Mm,
whereas AI now is using pseudo random.
yeah.
You use true random, it would make it more sensitive to our kind of let's say the more intuitive intelligences and things.
Mm.
Um, but it's and what it did say is when I challenged it, it was like, yeah, we can project into the future, but it's still all based on past data. Whereas when we tune into our intuition, which we have and AI doesn't, then we're sensing patterns emerging in the field of consciousness.
Oh,
And that's what, that's the truly human piece.
I
So I
so
think I think
feel.
AI has its place and can massively help with loads and loads of things.
Mm.
We just need to make sure that the kind of values and the
Balance.
place from which we lead AI.
Mm.
It's like, is it, what's his name? Decai's book, Raising AI.
Raising AI.
It's
Mm.
like, it's the new, we're the last generation who'll be able to raise AI. After that, AI is raising itself. And
So,
so it's really important at the moment that we set that framework and that container within which it can support the evolution of life as a whole
mm,
on this planet, potentially beyond. Yeah.
I agree. I love Dekai's book, and when you were talking about AI predicting the future, but based on past data, my brain was thinking about in my book how I had the mirror device, but it wasn't. It wasn't a. It was like from the baddies in the story. I'm giving away the plot, and so Vinci goes up to them and she's like, "But this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and like this is not real, not based." Yeah, and I don't know. And then the device collapses. I mean, I love the blurring of the fiction to what you're talking about from real
Mm.
science. And I agree. I don't see AI as evil. I just see it as based on where it comes from, who's the mother source of it. Obviously, Gaia intelligence is source, authentic intelligence. And so, yeah, it needs to kind of mirror that, but be respect. This is just from my intuition speaking, but be respectful of the authentic source.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's probably a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah,
Be respectful of the authentic source. There
be
we go.
respectful of the. And so my yeah, my last question for you, Peter, is what do you want to be remembered by?
Um, wow, what do I want to be remembered by? I would just say, he kind of made the most of the time he had. That'll do.
Me too.
In service of the bigger whole.
Yeah, I think we're paralleling here. It's such a joy talking to you. Really, we could go on for hours.
Yeah.
Degrees.
There we go. Oh, I think it's saying come back for another round.
I
Yeah.
think that there's a part two coming, so I hope
Yeah.
everyone enjoyed listening to this conversation. And may the peace of the tuning fork be with you.